It's 2 a.m. You're almost asleep. And then that whine, right by your ear. You sit up, you flip the light on, you grab a rolled up magazine like it's a machete. And for the next 20 minutes, you are not a person anymore. You are a barefoot, half-naked Rambo, stalking one insect across your own bedroom, willing to burn the building down to win. Smack, missed, smack, got her, smeared on the white paint like a tiny red apology. Victory. You collapse back into bed. War hero. Now zoom out. The thing you just executed, her ancestors are the deadliest animals in human history, more lethal than every shark, lion, war, and plague combined. One single genus, Anopheles, still kills around 600,000 people every year, mostly through malaria, and the genetic scars from that war are written inside your blood. Right now. To understand why your ancestors survived this, you have to first understand what they were actually surviving. A 2024 study in Nature, led by Megan Michelle and Christina Warrener at Harvard, pulled malaria DNA out of the teeth of a man who died in Germany 5,600 years ago, the oldest direct evidence of the parasite ever recovered. But the parasite itself is far older. Plasmodium falciparum, the deadly strain, jumped from western gorillas to humans somewhere in the Cameroonian rainforest between 40,000 and 60,000 years ago, which means for most of the time, anatomically modern humans have existed. A microscopic killer has been riding in mosquito spit, hunting our bloodstream. And here's the uncomfortable part. Your ancestors didn't know any of this. They didn't see the parasite. They didn't connect the whining insect to the fevers 2 weeks later. They were fighting a war against an enemy whose existence they couldn't even imagine. So, how did anyone live long enough to become your great-great-great-grandparent? The first answer is the one you'd guess, but it goes deeper than you'd think. Fire. Not for warmth, not for cooking, for smoke. Ethnographic studies of groups from the Hadza of Tanzania to Amazonian peoples to subarctic hunters all show the same trick, evolved independently across continents. A smoldering fire kept burning all night, often with specific damp plants thrown on top to thicken the smoke. Mosquitoes hate carbon monoxide and the particulate haze. They lose your scent. Your ancestors essentially built a chemical fog around their bodies every single night for tens of thousands of years. The cost? Lungs full of soot. Studies of pre-industrial skeletons and mummies routinely show evidence of chronic respiratory damage from indoor smoke. Your ancestors traded their lungs for their lives. It worked. But here's the catch. Smoke only protects you when you're sitting in it. The second trick was where they slept. Across radically different cultures, Papua New Guinea, the Amazon, parts of West Africa, the solution was the same. Get off the ground. Sleeping platforms raised 3 to 6 feet above the soil, sometimes built into trees, sometimes inside huts with a high sleeping shelf. This isn't aesthetic. Anopheles, mosquitoes, the malaria carriers, are weak flyers. They hunt low, close to the warm carbon dioxide pooling at ground level. Lift a sleeping body even a few feet, and you cut your exposure dramatically. Add a tightly woven grass mat or bark cloth pulled over the head, and you've invented the world's first mosquito net, 30,000 years before the polyester one in your camping bag. You think of these as primitive sleeping arrangements. They're not. They're engineering, refined over 1,000 generations of people who watched their children die when they got it wrong. But here's where the story tilts into something stranger, because no matter how clever the smoke and the platforms and the plants, mosquitoes still got through, and the parasite still got in. So evolution did something extraordinary. It rewrote your blood. Around 7,300 years ago, in roughly the same Cameroonian region where Plasmodium first jumped species, a single mutation appeared in a single human ancestor. It changed one amino acid in the hemoglobin gene. It made red blood cells fold into a crescent shape when oxygen got low. Inherit one copy, and you survived malaria at radically higher rates. Inherit 2, and you got sickle cell disease and likely died young. This is the deal evolution cut. Roughly a quarter of your children might die from the disease the gene causes, in exchange for the rest of them surviving the disease the gene defends against. That trade was so worthwhile statistically that the mutation swept through West and Central Africa anyway. And it didn't stop there. Beta thalassemia, G6PD deficiency, the Duffy negative blood type, present in over 95% of West Africans and almost nowhere else. which makes you nearly immune to one whole species of malaria. 5 separate genetic adaptations in 5 different parts of the human genome, all aimed at one insect bite. Evolution doesn't usually try this hard. It tried this hard for mosquitoes. A 2026 Cambridge study by Andrea Manica's group went further still. By modeling malaria across sub-Saharan Africa between 74,000 and 5,000 years ago, they showed that the parasite literally shaped where humans could live. Whole regions of the continent were uninhabitable for long stretches of the year. Populations got fragmented, isolated, pushed into highlands and dry zones where mosquitoes couldn't follow. The diversity in modern African genetics, the population structure geneticists still study today, is partly the fingerprint of mosquitoes deciding where humans were allowed to settle. A buzzing insect, the weight of a grape seed, redrew the map of a continent. Your ancestors didn't just survive mosquitoes, they were sorted by them. And now we get to the part that's hard to sit with. Because everything we've just described, the smoke, the platforms, the rewritten blood, wasn't a victory. It was an arrangement, a truce on terrible terms. The smoke saved adults at the cost of their lungs. The platforms saved sleepers at the cost of constant labor. The sickle cell gene saved villages at the cost of buried children. For most of human history, in malaria zones, somewhere between 1 in 5 and 1 in 3 children did not see their 5th birthday. The fevers came in waves. Pregnant women lost pregnancies. Bright, healthy people would feel a chill in the afternoon and be dead by the end of the week. There is no clean answer here. The truth is that prehistoric people didn't really survive mosquitoes. They paid a tax to them, in bodies, in lungs, in mutated blood, and what we call human resilience is really the bill that came due across 100,000 years. And yet, one more reveal. Because the story isn't only loss. Look at the mosquito itself. Aedes aegypti, the yellow fever mosquito, didn't always prefer humans. Princeton neurobiologist Carolyn McBride and her team showed that this species evolved its taste for human blood relatively recently, likely in the last few thousand years, as humans started clustering in larger villages with stored water, which means we partially made the modern mosquito. By gathering, by digging wells, by leaving water jars uncovered, we handed evolution a new niche, and mosquitoes filled it. The predator adapted to us as fast as we adapted to it. You and the mosquito are co-evolved enemies. 2 species that have been editing each other's genomes in real time. Almost nothing else on Earth has that kind of relationship with you. So the next time it's 2 a.m. and that wine comes back and you snap up with the rolled up magazine in your hand and the bedroom light burning your eyes, remember, you are doing something profoundly ancient. Your great-grandmother did this. Her great-grandmother did this. A woman 5,600 years ago in what is now Germany did this, with malaria already in her teeth. A man in Cameroon 50,000 years ago did this beside a smoking fire, with the first sickle-shaped cells quietly forming inside the children sleeping next to him. They didn't have a magazine, they didn't have a light switch, they had smoke and a high platform and a mutation in their blood, and they fought the exact same fight you just won in 20 minutes. Every swat is a memorial. Every itch is a receipt. So tell me, after hearing all that, will you ever hear that sound the same way again?